Perfecto. Ahora sí que nos vamos a meter de lleno con el tema de la recursividad. Primero, te queremos pedir que nos definas para nuestra audiencia lo que esto es, lo que implica el concepto de recursividad. Y segundo, puesto que te percataste de que en tal tribu no existía del mismo modo esa propiedad, al menos como hasta entonces había sido concebida, ya que luego, por lo que yo he leído en tu libro, se reformuló un poco esa concepción y se pasó a contemplar que podíamos tener como la predisposición para tener la recursividad, pero no acabar materializándola, por así decirlo, no haciendo uso de ella. Y puesto que te percataste, como decía, de ello, cuando se suponía que era una pieza clave en lo que habían postulado en su día los chomskianos y lo que habían erguido teorías posteriores, queríamos que nos contases al respecto cómo es que esta tribu no cuenta supuestamente con recursividad, si se equivocan, por lo tanto, no han ni sus sucesores con lo que defendían. Un poquito eso.
So now we want to talk about recursion. First, we would like you to define for our audience what recursion is. And second, we would like to talk about this property, because you said that it doesn't exist in the Piraha language, but maybe there were different ideas about it, because it was changed over time. As a matter of fact, you realized that it was an important part of what Noam Chomsky postulated in his day. And later there were different theories. So we would like to know, how is it possible that the Piraha language doesn't have recursion? So was Noam wrong? And we know that they could build simple sentences as they were chained instead of being placed all together into a single statement. So we wanted to explore this a little bit more.
So let me start by giving a definition of recursion. But to answer the question fully, one has to explain also what Noam Chomsky's claim exactly was and what kind of theory he has about language, and how my own claims have been misrepresented in the literature for some time. So recursion has a number of formal definitions. You can say that in a series of rules, if a symbol appears on both the left and the right side of the rule, it is a recursive rule. But a more intuitive, clearer explanation comes from it is the ability to put one thing inside another of the same type. So, and without any limit in principle. So, for example, if I say, John said he is happy is a sentence, and it's inside another sentence, John said. If I say John is a truck driver, truck is a noun inside another noun, truck driver, which has a noun and a verb to form a noun. So these are examples, and they're all over the place in English and Spanish and most other languages, of recursion. What I have argued is that, and so here's a point where Chomsky's theory has to be understood. Chomsky has no theory of how sentences go together to form stories and discourses. So he has no theory of discourse. He never has had since he started back in the 50s. His theory is a theory only about sentences and nothing larger. So when I claim that the Piraha think recursively and they have recursive stories, but they don't have recursive sentences, this is a problem for Chomsky's theory, a serious problem, because he says that sentences are built recursively, but it's not a problem for the Piraha's intelligence, because they do think recursively and they do have recursion in their stories. But this is very different from Chomsky's theory. I'll let you translate that, and then I want to talk, if there's time and if there's interest, I'd like to talk a little bit more about how my claims actually affect Chomsky's claims and his theory.
Es muy importante para responder a esta pregunta saber la idea de Noam Chomsky sobre el lenguaje. La recursividad tiene muchas definiciones. Se puede pensar, por ejemplo, que se puede insertar una frase a la izquierda o a la derecha de otra frase. Realmente es la posibilidad de insertar una cosa cerca de otra de la misma categoría, sin límites. Y esto lo podemos aplicar a las frases. Por ejemplo, diciendo John está feliz o John dice que está feliz. Se trata de dos frases que hemos puesto juntas. Y también podemos decir John es un camionero, que en inglés se dice truck driver, conductor de camión. Estamos poniendo dos nombres cerca, con lo cual la teoría de Chomsky no explica cómo se unen las frases para crear historias o discursos. Su teoría se centra solamente en las frases y de hecho los Piraha tienen muchas historias de recursividad, la emplean. El problema es que no la emplean en las frases y esto supone un problema para la teoría de Noam Chomsky, pero no supone un problema para la inteligencia de ese pueblo. Y más adelante voy a explicar mejor mi influencia en lo que dijo Chomsky.
If I could say one thing more, and then you can ask me all you would like. Chomsky claims that recursivity is the core property of human language, but he's never said why, and he's never said why it couldn't simply be a core property of human thought instead of human language. He's never tied it to human language. He's simply said that it's part of human language, but he's never shown that it has to be. So for example, if we find a language that doesn't have recursion, then Chomsky could say recursion is a property of humans, and if a language chooses to not have it, that's irrelevant. It's like putting a patch over your eye. You still have two eyes, but it really doesn't matter that you put a patch over it. On the other hand, but that answer assumes that we've already proven that recursion is part of language and is the core property of language, and we haven't proven that at all. So let's say that we find a language that doesn't have recursion, and you say, well, that's okay, it doesn't need to have recursion. But as soon as you say that, you admit that it's possible that no language have recursion, because if one can do away with it, they can all do away with it. They can all fail to manifest it. And if that's the case, the claim that language is based on recursion is empty. It's not a scientific claim. It can't be shown to be wrong. If you can't prove something wrong, it's not a scientific claim. On the other hand, Pitaha does have recursion at the level of discourses, but that falls outside of Chomsky's theory. There are many linguistic theories in which discourse is part of the theory, but Chomsky's is not one of those. So a language without recursion, and Pitaha is no longer the only one, there are several more that have been claimed. A language without recursion is a severe counterexample to all of Chomsky's claims about recursion.
Chomsky afirmó que la recursividad es una propiedad clave del lenguaje humano. Sin embargo, no dijo el por qué y no dijo, por ejemplo, que podría ser una propiedad del pensamiento humano. Dijo solamente que pertenecía a la lengua, pero no explicó cómo y el por qué. Entonces, para él, la recursividad era una parte central de la lengua, pero no lo probó nunca. En el momento en el que encontramos una lengua sin recursividad, también estábamos reconociendo que es posible que las lenguas no necesiten la recursividad. Y entonces la teoría de Chomsky no es científica. Y realmente los Piraha sí cuentan con recursividad, pero en el discurso y no en la construcción de frases. Y esto trasciende la teoría de Chomsky. Es por esto que una lengua sin recursividad no puede explicar ni refutar la teoría de Chomsky.